Yeah, and I guess what that points to slightly is that I think our maybe it's our society or our culture has taught us that losing a job or, at the end of any particular role is this traumatic situation where you have to question yourself and your abilities. But maybe it's in many ways, the opportunity to advance and to get into something that you should be doing. And we see that a fair bit where if someone's not being successful, why are we trying to force them to be successful in a role that maybe they'll never be successful in?
Yeah. So. I mean, I've noticed that there's an awful lot of real estate in the space between making the decision that someone doesn't fit, it's time for them to go, and upstream of that. There are capabilities and brilliance within everybody. We talked before we went on mic that I spend a lot of time dealing with the topic of purpose, both individually and corporately, which really means about each of us bettering our best, bringing the very best capabilities to work every day in a way that gets them employed and gets them engaged in the critical business issues that we're trying to achieve. That's when everybody wins. Admittedly, there are people that are in roles, and for any number of reasons, they've drifted down a path that just isn't making best use of who they are. That's not necessarily a reason to let them go. We could be better, I think, within the leadership community to figure out who do we actually have on our team. And, metaphorically speaking, well, I know he's been a pitcher, but what if he played shortstop? Well, I know he's been playing lefty all the time, why don't we try him on the right? Or what if he played forward? You make those decisions and you think there's something in them, but it's like they're not reaching it. There's something missing and we're not sure what it is. So let's try around a few things. If we use a sports metaphor, forgive anybody that does hate sports metaphors. But you see it when coaches are frustrated by the performance of their hockey club and they start moving lines around, trying to figure out. Montreal used to be famous for that. They're always changing their lines up to try and get the team going. Well, in a manner of speaking, that's what we need to do. Laying off is always an option, for sure. But we want to think about all the effort we went into to attract this talent in the first place. The quickest way to make an impact on your bottom line is to let go, 20-30% of your complement. And there's good reasons to do that. I'm not debating that at all. But let's make really sure the people that we're having walk out the door, we're not going to be killing ourselves to get people like that back in 3 months, 6 months, 10 months, whatever.
And that's definitely happening right now.
Absolutely.
100%.
Because I'm working with them. I'm working with a lot of these people, and you think, how did this make sense? Yeah. Here's an incredible story. Excuse me. I'm working with a guy who's on the leadership track. They spent $350,000 on him in the last 18 months, just before his layoff, going through all kinds of leadership programs. A new VP comes in, and within 2 months, they let him go.
Wow. And
the president's response was, well, it's his role. It's his call. He's building his team. We need to let him make these decisions. Obviously there's more to the story, but on the surface, if it's profoundly stupid, it's profoundly stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it smart because we have a new leader and we have to let him make decisions. We invested this money in this individual because it made sense, because of how he's showing up, because of the impact he was having on the business. Just because the new leader doesn't know him yet is not a business case for him to let him go. It's a business case for him to get off his butt and learn who is this guy. And that's happening. That's not an unusual circumstance where businesses are investing in people and then they end up letting them go in a really short period of time where they don't even get the investment back.
Right.
The money's gone. It'll never come back.
Yeah. That's an interesting scenario too. And our world is evolving quite a bit, and so you're seeing people, and I think we look at a lot of people, and I think we hire spark as much as we hire skill, right? And we look at someone and say, that there's the potential there, and I can see that. And then it becomes a bit of a two-way street too, because someone has to live up to potential. It can't just be the employer perpetually dragging someone to their potential, because it rarely works.
That's right.
So, but we see that quite a bit, and I think our marketplace is as we evolve, and I think some of these people that have been laid off recently, maybe business needs to step back and look at, okay, well, what's the evolving nature of our business? If the business is going to be done differently, did we hire that person and maybe they're the right person for this new innovation or whatever the case may be?
And in fairness, this is an inordinately difficult job for businesses, and a lot of them it's just remaining solvent. So I don't want to beat up businesses too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me as an individual, if I'm an employee within a company, I don't just get to sit back and expect my leader to manage my career or the organization to take care of me. Where that idea came from, it was rampant in my father's generation, because that's actually what happened to some degree. But if I'm not actively aligning my efforts to the critical business issues of the company I'm part of, that's just profoundly stupid. And I'm not saying it's easy to do. And no one's going to come to your door and say, hey, Bob, here's what I'd like you to do today. You need to figure it out. And you need to figure it out by having a conversation. I talk to so many people, probably, I would say more than 80% of the people I work with, were starving for feedback from their boss. Well, okay, let's look at the math. We have a boss who leads a team of 120 people, and you're one of those 120 people. How many bosses do you have? One. Well, how does it work? So we have one guy who's supposed to have 120 conversations on a rotating basis, and there's one of you who could have a conversation with your boss as you're going down an elevator, as you're walking down a hall, as you're pouring each other a cup of coffee, as a tag on to good morning. By the way, this project is blah, blah, blah. Hey, I know you have a meeting coming up with the leadership team. I thought you should know this. That's not hard. That's no big investment. That you don't need to go to Harvard to get an MBA to do that. And so employees could do a better job, I think, of making sure that the work they're on is relevant because they know it is, and they know it is because they're looking at the eyeballs of the person who's helping them discern, yes, this is where we need to be.
Yeah.
And doing that would help the leader have more frank and honest conversations with you. So you'd come home at the end of the day knowing exactly how you're doing, knowing exactly where your growth edges are, knowing exactly what could be refined, enhanced, or improved, knowing exactly where to invest in professional development and having the support of the organization.
Right.
Rather than sitting back saying, well, my boss hasn't blah, 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 my organization hasn't blah, 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 blah. Marshall Goldsmith, #1 executive coach in the world, has 6 questions that he recommends people ask themselves every day. I'm not going to read all 6 of them, but they each start with, did I do my best to? So, and sometimes employee surveys say, did your organization do their best to make your goals clear to you? Did I do my best to make sure I was clear on my own goals?
Two-sided. So it's
Completely.
two-sided, not
Absolutely.
not one-sided.
Absolutely.
Yeah.